We're happy to participate in the Dean's Challenge. We are two of the CAP staff here, and we're going to introduce ourselves and tell you a little bit about presentation before we get going. I'm Dr. Laura Locker. I am the Assistant Director and run the Law Center Office of the Counseling and Psych Services here at Georgetown. This is my 6th year working here at the law school. I love working with the law students, and always really find that the sleep is something that a lot of people can relate to, and there's never enough time for sleep in law school, so it's a timely subject. And Lauren, you want to?
Yeah. I'm Dr. Lauren DePompio. I'm new to Georgetown this year, not new to University Counseling, but I came on as one of the new full-time counselors in the fall, so this is my 2nd semester. I'm really happy to be here. It's been fun so far, very busy. So I think this is even a good reminder for us sometimes so we can get more sleep and taking better care of ourselves.
And we actually, in addition to Dr. DePompio and myself, we have Dr. Laura Scarpone and Carrie Tiller, who's a licensed clinical social worker. And so we're the four staff counselors here at the law school. Exciting for us is that we're moving, currently we're in the lower level of Gewurz, and we're moving hopefully tomorrow to new space. It's 110 Gewurz, so it's on the main floor, just past the elevators.
The desks are coming in earlier today.
Yes, the desks are coming in earlier today, so we're literally moving in right now.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
So we don't even have any cards or anything because all of our stuff is packed in boxes for the move.
Laura, I just want you to fess up. Laura is also a lawyer.
Fess up. Yes. We like to say I'm a recovering lawyer. Yes. Yes, so I can really relate to the struggles of law students and lawyers, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. And we're going to have time if anybody has questions. You're free to ask while we're doing our presentation, and it's also fine at the end. We'll have a few minutes to talk about anything else that relates that we haven't covered during the presentation. So we're here to talk about sleep hygiene. We kind of use the term sleep hygiene to cover kind of a broad range of sleep issues, but basically sleep hygiene is the idea of how having a good routine and having good practices that enable us to get relaxing and restorative, an adequate amount of sleep. So it's both the amount of sleep and obviously the quality of sleep. And sleep hygiene is a lot of very basic stuff, but it's amazing how often we all neglect to really think about our sleep routines. And so it's I think very much part of the Dean's Challenge and wellness that we're here today to talk about sleep. So I think we'd like to start with a very short video that kind of just summarizes some of the issues with sleep, and I'm sure as you watch it you'll be able to relate to some of it.
51 sheep, 52 sheep, 53 sheep. Ugh, why am I still awake? Oh well, at least it's only 3 a.m. We've all been there. Ugh. Getting quality sleep is easier said than done. So today, we're going to show you how sleep is tied to your physical and mental health. We're also going to show you 5 easy ways to get that refreshing sleep that you need. We all know that we feel groggy and slow when we don't get enough sleep. But that's not the only effect lack of sleep has on our bodies. In our episode on sleep and creativity, we told you that not getting enough sleep over an extended period of time can lead to high blood pressure, which can also lead to heart attacks and aneurysms. But it's not always easy to try to get that good quality sleep. Some nights, you stay awake worrying about that presentation that you have to give first thing in the morning. And then some nights, you just can't get comfortable. And then other nights, you fall asleep just fine. But then, you wake up every 15 minutes worrying that you're going to miss the bus. All right, there's no one way to guarantee that you're going to get awesome sleep. But we do have 5 easy tips and tricks to help you get on the path towards good sleep hygiene. Step 1. Develop a relaxing bedtime ritual. When you think about it, We all learn to sleep by routine. When we were really little, our parents gave us baths, read us books, tucked us in, got us that extra glass of water, all in the name of good sleep. Now that you're older, you're going to have to develop a routine of your own. Whether it's a cup of decaf tea and a chapter from a book, or a bath and 15 minutes of mellow yoga. Of course, there are some activities that should be kept out of a bedtime ritual. Don't drink alcohol before bed. It might help you fall asleep, but chances are you'll wake up in the middle of the night. Don't exercise 2 hours before bedtime. Sure, it gets your blood flowing, but it'll amp you up mentally. Step 2. Maintain a regular sleep and wake schedule. Now, you don't have to wake up at exactly 7:02 and then go to bed at 10:53 every night. That's a bit on the neurotic side. But do try to wake up and go to bed at generally the same time 6 days a week. According to doctors at Harvard University, this will help set your internal clock so that even on those rare days when your schedule is thrown off, you'll be able to get right back on track and avoid what doctors call a sleep hangover. Step 3. Stop watching your clock. Studies show that people who constantly look at their clock are less likely to fall asleep easily. Why? Well, laying there thinking, it's 11:03, I have to be up in 6 hours and 57 minutes, stresses you out. So try to keep some distance between you and that alarm clock. That way, those blinking numbers will quit mocking you, and you'll sleep easier. Step 4. Create an optimal sleep environment. A Mayo Clinic study found that people sleep best in dark, quiet, cool environments. With all the benefits of sleep, it's worth investing in blackout blinds, comfortable earplugs, and a fan or air conditioning. The more comfortable you are physically, the better you'll sleep. Step 5. Unplug. Make your bedroom a tech-free zone. I know, but research shows that electronics interfere with sleep because it's easy to get distracted by them. Checking your email right before bed could add more stress. Watching TV or movies makes it harder to sleep, and getting sucked into, say, Pinterest right before bed could keep you up for hours. Ooh, I like that. I like that too. Oh, that's pretty. Let's recap. Today we learned a few more reasons why you need good sleep. We also taught you 5 simple ways to help you improve your sleep health. Next time you're stuck tossing and turning, try to develop a ritual. Maintain a schedule, stop clock watching, trick your bedroom out, or unplug. It could help. From all of us here at Wellcast, sweet dreams. Tweet us at WatchWellcast.
So, hopefully, review of some things that most of us already know, but I think what I like about the video is that it kind of brings humor to a subject that actually, when you're sleeping is not good, it doesn't really feel very funny. It's humorous to watch a video like this, but I know that it can be very frustrating if you either are not getting enough sleep or getting good quality sleep, if you suffer from insomnia. And we want to kind of talk about some of the things that go into sleep today. One thing that people always ask is, well, what is a normal amount of sleep? Is there such a thing? And this is probably something you already suspect, but it really does vary with each individual what is considered to be a normal amount of sleep.
Yeah, so there's a range. So finding the good range for you and the optimal average might take a while, but generally the recommended number of hours to get sleep to get a night is around 6 to 10. So if you're falling either below that or above that, you might want to think about ways that you could readjust your bedtime routine and your bedtime ritual to kind of find that more optimal sleep average for yourself. I know as students it can be really hard, and a lot of times we hear people saying, oh, I'm only getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep, but you're likely not getting enough to be maximizing your best potential as students if you're getting too little of sleep. And generally the National Sleep Foundation says it's about 7 to 9.
Just out of curiosity, do most of you feel like you get somewhere between 7 to 9, or is it quite a bit more or less? Who gets less generally than 7? Yeah, that little bit less? 5, 6, something like that? Okay.
6.
6.
So sometimes I'm more than 10 would happen.
Okay, yeah, and that can be the other thing, that sometimes people will sleep a lot, and then it's always interesting, sometimes people will say, I'm sleeping 11 or 12, but I don't feel rested.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about that, but generally, for most people, 7 to 9 is kind of the recommendation.
All right, so we handed one of the handouts we gave you, and raise your hand if you didn't get them, and you can come and pass them out. Is the Epworth Sleepiness Scale. So you can just take a few minutes right now to go through the couple questions and rate on a scale of 0 to 3 your chance of dozing based on these situations.
And I don't think we did bring pencils, but hopefully, or pens, but probably most people have something to write with.
Yeah, everything's packed.
Yeah.
Is there an extra pen? Thank you.
And then when you're finished, just do a quick tally to see what your total score is.
Everybody have a score? Any surprises?
No, I mean, it kind of came exactly how I thought it was. I was pretty much right at a 6. It's interesting though, I feel like for me, it really depends on the season also. Like if it's warmer out, like in the summertime, and if I'm on a long road trip, it would be easier to doze off as a passenger in the car.
Sure.
But no, I think that I'm generally right at a 6 or 7.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But the interesting part I've noticed, and just kind of reflecting, is it depends a lot on what time I'm going to sleep. So if I'm going to sleep after midnight, it's this number might be higher. Like if I'm going to sleep after midnight for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, then it might be a little bit higher. But as long as I'm in bed by 10 or 11, it's all good.
So you're noticing like maybe different times of year with the seasons that your sleepiness changes, and then also if you're going to sleep after a certain hour that your sleepiness increases.
Definitely the latter, especially as I
Yeah.
trying to make an adjustment.
Anybody score in the 9 range or above?
Yeah. So we
Yeah,
got a couple hands.
okay. Yeah, so 9 and up, they're saying, yeah, that probably not enough sleep there. And, I think it can vary for individual what it is that might be the roadblock to them getting good sleep, but I think, 9 and above is a score where probably sleep hygiene can help. Why is sleep important? Well, I think, a lot of this may be kind of, intuitive, but what do you all think are some of the consequences of sleep deprivation? Anybody have any things that, just from their own personal experience, when you don't get enough sleep, anything that you notice, either physically or mentally,
You don't think it's right.
you don't think is straight? Yeah, it can lead to some confusion. Mm-hmm.
Impatience.
Okay.
Patience, like dealing with other people and just regular
Okay, yeah. Irritability, lack of patience, not as good able to concentrate, maybe your memory's not as clear, it's harder to maybe handle complex mental tasks. How about on the physical health end? Anything you notice physically when you don't get enough sleep? Sluggish, yeah. Feeling, just a general feeling of you can't move quickly, both mentally sluggish and also physically sluggish.
My diet usually goes down.
Okay.
It does. I just don't eat as well. I don't skip meals or
Yeah.
more time less than
On the flip side, I'll just eat a lot of crappy food
Mhm.
and not be like really conscious of what I'm using. Like I just need something to get me through the day. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, like carbs, just something to try because your body's trying to get energy. You're trying to compensate for the lack of well-restedness, but you tend to choose things that might give you like an immediate sort of rush of energy, but then you crash, and you're not really fueling your body appropriately, but you're craving something to try to compensate for that feeling of being tired. How about in terms of how you function? If you have to do, say you have to do kind of things where you have to be have a lot of awareness of physical safety. Anybody have any thoughts about how sleep impacts accidents or like safety statistics in the workplace, things of that nature? Any guess that how that would impact?
Your reaction time is not going to be as great if you're sleep deprived.
Right, yeah. I mean, I actually read a study recently saying that driving sleep deprived was as dangerous as driving with several drinks of alcohol in your blood, which I found fascinating, but I can definitely see it. So yeah.
Become dozy and kind of drift off.
Right? Well, I think on that sleepiness scale, wasn't one of them like whether or not when you're in a car stopped in traffic, you feel like you would doze off? I'm thinking, yikes, that doesn't
Not
sound
good.
very good. But yeah, increased risk of accidents, weight gain, heart disease. Any idea how that comes to be? Would you have thought that sleep would impact you metabolically in that way? So it's really very interesting. There are changes in our cardiovascular function, changes at the endocrine level, all kinds of things going on in our body in terms of how our body handles stress, how we process sugars and proteins and all kinds of things. And there have been a number of studies lately linking a kind of a chronic sleep deprivation to weight gain, which I think is fascinating. So obviously lots of reasons why sleep is very important. And then sleep in law students. I mean, this just kind of, everything we just said, but obviously on the mental side of things, on the, when you have to do intellectually demanding things like read, 100 pages of a case chapter, or you have to write a brief, or you have to do something else that requires, a lot of demands brain-wise. A lack of sleep will definitely get in the way, and difficulty concentrating is a big one.
All right, so we've talked about some of the negative side effects when you're sleep deprived, but so the next thing we want to talk about is what can we do to change that? So we know the negative effects, but what are some of the things that we can help to increase our sleep? So this might be a little bit repeating some of the things that were on the video, but keeping regular sleep hours. So you said over here, if you go to bed by 10 or 11, you generally can get enough sleep and feel restored and get the maximum amount that you need to function at your best. So keeping this regular bedtime and trying to wake up around the same time in the morning, whether it's the weekends or not, within reason. I know we all like to sleep in, but you're still trying to keep that regular sleep hours as best as you can. Exercising regularly. So the time and day in which you exercise is actually really important. If you exercise too late at night, and we'll talk about that, that can actually, as was in the video as well, that can activate you too much, and you end up waking yourself up more instead of getting into that relaxed state that you need to fall asleep. So exercising in the morning, that helps to give you energy for the day. Might even give you a sense of accomplishment if that's something you can check off your to-do list that you've accomplished for the day, and that's behind you as you go on to classes and whatnot. Getting exposure to the sun. So this is kind of tapping into our seasonal changes with mood. If you experience a change in mood, or with sleep, feeling more tired in the winter, it's because we have less hours of natural daylight. So trying to get out and about while the sun is out, maybe studying in a bright place, going outside for lunch, or taking a walk, that can help improve your sleep.
If I can just say one thing about that. I went to a presentation on sleep a while back, and the sleep specialist who was leading the presentation made a point of saying that all sunlight is not the same. So apparently, particularly in the winter months, getting out in the morning sunlight to about early afternoon is much more effective in both combating depression and also helping to regulate your circadian rhythms, which helps you to have that regular sleep cycle. Apparently that early in the day light is very, very beneficial. So good to know, hard to do sometimes.
So
but-
you'd say,
Yeah.
so like first thing early in the morning till like mid-afternoon, it's the best time to go out, exercise.
Yeah, well, particularly if you can get outdoors, that's great. And definitely with the exercise, not at 10 o'clock at night if you're going to try to get to bed at a reasonable hour, or even really after, I would say, 7 or 8 p.m. It really would be better to do your exercise earlier in the day, and also good to get in your hours in the sunlight earlier in the day. It helps a lot to helps with the production of melatonin, which is a natural substance in our brain. You've probably heard of melatonin as a supplement that you can take to help us sleep, but our brain actually manufactures melatonin naturally. So sleep helps stimulate a gland in our brain that helps with the secretion of melatonin. So that's part of why it's important to get the sunlight while you can.
Yeah, so then some other things you can do is make your bedroom a comfortable place. So dark, quiet, cool. You know, if you don't have a fan or an air conditioner and you don't have control over the temperature in your apartment, getting a fan can help. If you're too hot at night, you're not going to sleep. You'll probably end up tossing and turning and not be relaxed. You can also, if you're having a hard time sleeping, change your pillows. You know, make your bed more inviting. Do things to make it more comfy and something that you look forward to getting into at night if you're having a hard time getting comfortable. How many people study in their beds or in their bedrooms? When you read your books or do writing in your bed?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got kind of a mix.
Social media, on your phone, on your laptop.
So really, it's best if we keep our beds solely for sleep and sex. If you are associating work with your bed and studying and reading con law, you're not going to want to get in that bed. It's going to create kind of a negative association. Or maybe you might love con law. Think of the class you don't like. But it's going to create a negative association with your bed. So we really want our beds to be a welcoming and pleasure-inducing space, not a negative, oh my gosh, I have to go and study space. All right, and then finally, if you can do some things to help relax before bed. So taking a warm shower, a warm bath, maybe doing some deep breathing, meditation exercises, putting on some relaxing music, even making yourself like a cup of tea or something warm. Those are all good things that can help your body get prepared for sleep.
Okay. All right.
Oh, wait, what to avoid? Sorry,
What to
skip this
avoid?
one.
Yeah, I didn't even see this one. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so we're up late studying in the library. Who grabs a cup of coffee? Or a soda? Or a Red Bull? Candy. All right, so avoiding caffeine and excessive amounts of sugar in the evenings are going to be helpful when you're trying to go to bed. If you're having, 3 shots of espresso 2 hours before you go to sleep, you're probably not going to be able to fall asleep. Exercising, again, we already talked about that, so make sure you get in your exercise earlier in the day or around lunchtime, and avoiding that in the evenings. Some drinking alcohol, so drinking, a couple of glasses of wine or beer, or going out with your friends, thinking about the way that alcohol is going to affect your sleep, especially maybe if it's on a weeknight. You might want to think about how that'll affect you the next day and the rest you're going to get. Reading and watching TV in bed, and sometimes that's hard to avoid. That might be where you like to unwind and relax, but that might be something to think about if you're doing that a lot and you're noticing that you're having a hard time falling asleep and not sleeping well, thinking about cutting down the amount of time you're reading or watching TV in bed. Napping in the afternoon, the evening, that can be a hard thing sometimes when you're feeling sleep deprived, but if you're sleep deprived, you're going to be wanting to take that extra hour in between classes, to maybe take a quick nap. So avoiding naps can be really helpful if you're having trouble with sleep. Big meals, so if you can eat a smaller meal in the evening and earlier, that is better than eating a really big meal right before you get into bed. And then finally, engaging in stimulating activity. So that would be, like exercise, or watching TV or on your phones, things like that.
Yeah. Actually, just going along with that, in addition to just sort of the mental stimulation of doing something like being on your laptop or your phone, does anybody else know another reason why those electronic devices are not great when you're trying to get to sleep? Yeah.
Because the light emitted from the device or the computer pad, whatever it is sending your brain signals that it's the middle of the day.
Yeah, it's that blue spectrum light that it does. It sends signals to your brain like, oh, it's time to get up and be active, which is the opposite of when we talked about the melatonin. It kind of tells your brain, like, turn off the melatonin. We don't need to go to sleep right now. They actually, I don't know if you guys, if you've noticed, but like on like iPhone and stuff, there's like the night shift. Like you can set it so that after 10 or 11 or whatever time you want, and the light changes on your phone. And even something as simple as that can help. Obviously, the best is to stay off the device as much as possible before you're going to sleep, but also trying to avoid too much of that blue light from the electronic devices is helpful. All right, so help, I can't sleep. Just by a show of hands, has anybody had one of those nights where it has nothing to do with like necessarily whether you have a nice welcoming bedroom or even whether or not you have a normal sort of bedtime ritual, but you just can't fall asleep. You're just tossing and turning. Anybody familiar with that? I know I am. What do you think are some reasons why that may happen? Now we're talking about not like, you're intentionally staying up, and now it's like you want to go to sleep, you got in bed, it's 10:30, you're ready to go to sleep, 11 o'clock, and you feel like you're tired, but you just cannot get to sleep. What might be going on?
It's your mental awakeness.
Mental awakeness. What do you mean when you say mental awakeness?
It's like you just can't just quiet your mind down.
Ah, yes, right. So kind of like your mind is kind of on overdrive, thinking about things, maybe worrying about things. Maybe you're feeling some level of anxiety. You're trying to work something out in your mind and you can't seem to shut it off. Anybody experience that with sleep? Okay. I know that's something that, we, the CAPS counselors, hear a lot about, that, it's hard to kind of shut off all that mental activity at the end of the day, particularly if you have something on your mind. Okay, so let's talk about some sleep strategies that we can try. Okay, try not to worry. Well, that's a good one, right? Yeah, easier said than done. But I think that, we all have occasional times when we're dealing with some anxiety, that we have some sort of a worry on our mind. But if this is becoming a chronic problem where, you're having a hard time falling asleep many nights over the course of a week or two, and this doesn't just feel like a once in a while thing, there may be something going on that you need a little help with. Maybe there's a very concrete problem that you need to talk to someone about, or maybe it's just simply that your mind is thinking too much and you need some cognitive strategies to help you turn off whatever it is that your worries, that the mind is generating this kind of almost like a repetitive loop of worries. And sometimes our worries aren't even about anything that seems very realistic. So if that's happening, that can be a good reason, to come talk to a counselor, or it's also very often a sign that maybe something like meditation can be very helpful, which we'll talk about in a minute. You'll see at the bottom, try meditation or relaxation exercise. Anybody here familiar with any of the apps that you can download to your phone? There's Headspace, there's another one called Calm. Have you ever tried any of those apps?
I just downloaded Headspace this morning, actually.
Yeah?
And, I don't know. I've practiced other kinds of meditation before. I get the feel of it, but I think that they give you like 10 or so sessions, and then there's a fee for it or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So, if I was recommending to someone who's never meditated before, I'd say like to try and learn it through more like formal means, and then if you have to use an app or something to do it, because meditation existed before the apps, right? So now I feel like they're like, when we talked about this in that session where it's like this kind of prioritization of meditation and stuff. So. But they're there, so.
I agree with you that meditation is actually a practice that if you really want to cultivate meditation as part of your wellness routine, an app is probably not going to be enough to do the trick. But what I do like about some of the apps, and I actually prefer Calm, C-A-L-M. I like that one a little bit more personally than Headspace, but it's just an individual preference. What I like about it is that there are people who don't know where to start, and they're not going to take a meditation class necessarily. Maybe they've never done yoga. They're not going to do Lawyers and Balance necessarily. And it's something that's readily available that you can do even a 10-minute or a 5-minute breathing and relaxation exercise. I wouldn't really call it full-blown meditation, and certainly you're not practicing it at the same level of somebody who's doing it in a more intensive way, but it might be enough to help an individual quiet their mind and kind of take everything in their nervous system down a notch, which might help them to sleep a little bit better. So they're a nice tool to have at your disposal, but obviously there are other ways to practice meditation that could be even more effective.
And if you don't like any of the apps that are out there, you can always YouTube some videos, and there are some good meditation and mindfulness exercises that you can go through. One of the leading researchers and practitioners of mindfulness is John Kabat-Zinn, and he has a bunch of stuff on YouTube that you can go through. So that might be a little bit more accessible than the apps. So there's lots of different ways that you can access it now.
Yeah. Worrying about not falling asleep makes it harder. So who's familiar with this? That you get in bed, it's 11 o'clock, you're thinking, okay, I got to get up at 8. You're thinking, okay, if I go to sleep now, I'm gonna get 8.5 hours sleep. Now it's like 12:30, you're still awake, and you're thinking, okay, now if I go to sleep now, I'm only going to get 7 hours sleep, but that's not so bad. I can handle 7 hours. But then it's like 2 in the morning, and now you're like, oh, I'm only going to get 5 hours sleep or 6 hours sleep, and then the more you fixate on how late it is and looking at that clock, the harder it is, paradoxically, to even fall asleep. So I think they said in the video, don't clock watch. This is really what they're talking about. So what do you do in a situation like that? Well, sometimes the recommendation is actually get out of bed. You might actually do better off just getting up and doing some very light activity. I mean, don't run laps or anything, but maybe get up and do something like a small easy chore, or
Fold the laundry.
Yeah, fold laundry, or get up and make yourself a decaffeinated tea, or do something that's not too stimulating and exciting that it's going to contribute to the problem, but also that you're not then lying in bed kind of kind of creating a secondary problem where now you're anxious about not being able to get to sleep. So sometimes that's why they recommend getting up out of bed and then trying to get back in a little while. And that's, again, the boring or relaxing activity out of bed, folding laundry, good example. Journal or write down your thoughts. This one I think works if you've got something on your mind that maybe is contributing to why you can't fall asleep, right? You're worried about something. There's something on your mind. Sometimes emptying your thoughts and putting the thoughts in some sort of a journal, just writing them out can bring some sense of relief. Like, okay, now they're out on a piece of paper. They're no longer floating around in my head. So sometimes that people will say that helps them relax and go to sleep.
Yeah, and if you're thinking about all the things, like a list of things you have to do tomorrow, get up and write down that list instead of just thinking about them over and over. So you can have that there for the morning, but get it out of your mind now.
And we talked about the bedtime ritual. They're recommending starting an hour before bed. I mean, that's a fairly ambitious thing to start an hour before bed. But if you're really having trouble, you probably do need to devote a little more time than somebody else to getting ready to go to bed. But even a shorter ritual can be very helpful.
15 to 20 minutes even.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's it on our PowerPoint. I guess I want to leave a few minutes for any questions, or if you have any observations about your own sleep patterns that you're curious about. Anything in particular that goes on in the sleep realm?
Yes, if either of you see any recommendations on sleep posture.
Oh.
That's a good one. Like whether to sleep on your
Like
back
on the side,
or on your
back or
side.
something. And I'm asking because I was Googling last night and I saw one said that it's not good to sleep on your back because it can, bad breathing and snoring. And another one said it is good to sleep on your back because it promotes good posture with your spine. I tried to sleep on my back and it was comfortable, so I'm thinking of just going with that, but I wanted to ask in case you see anything.
I'm aware of certain recommendations that relate to this, and maybe Karen, you even. One thing I know is that if you've got any kinds of problems with breathing or snoring, often the recommendation will be to elevate your head. Get an extra pillow. They even sell like latex supportive pillows that you can kind of use to raise yourself up, and for some people, that's very helpful. Some people, I think, do find it more comfortable to sleep in one position versus another. I know that some people who are side sleepers like a pillow that is bigger and more firm, that kind of supports them on their side. I've never really figured out how people can sleep comfortably on their stomach, but I know some people are stomach sleepers. But I do think that sleeping on your back is often considered to be pretty good for supporting your spine if you can do it.
Yeah. Of course, if you don't sleep well on your back, then you want to sleep the best way. It's most comfortable for you, so you can actually sleep. And you don't want trying to sleep on your back becoming an anxiety because you can't get comfortable and you can't fall asleep.
Did you have a question?
Is it better to go to sleep earlier than later? Like regardless of the number of hours you're getting?
That's a really good question. To some extent, yes. I mean, most people's normal circadian rhythms will cause them to get sleepy somewhere. It varies by person, but typically, somewhere between, say, 10, 11, midnight. If you're going to bed at 3 and you're sleeping until 10 or 11 the next morning, generally that is not going to give you the same quality of sleep as having gotten the same number of hours and rotating everything forward. But there are some individual differences in people's circadian rhythms, and if you've ever been jet lagged, flying from one time zone to another, you probably experienced that. Most of us have a natural, kind of a natural body clock that will, for most of us, mean that we're going to get better sleep if we go to bed a little bit earlier and get up a little earlier rather than going to bed quite late and then sleeping late into the day.
So that rhythm like exists separate from whatever.
My understanding of this, and if anybody else knows, jump in, but my understanding of it is that we have already a natural basic rhythm. We can train ourselves to go to bed a little earlier and get up a little earlier, and obviously, realities of work and school and other, things of life, may require us to do that. But I think that, for many of us, we have sort of a natural time that we get sleepy. And then there's going to be a time where, our body temperature starts to rise and we start to naturally wake up. So part of this is figuring out what works best for you, and then to the extent that you can, trying to work with that natural schedule. Another important thing that I just thought of is temperature. I don't know whether this is true for all of you, but I remember, at one point sleeping in an apartment building or a dorm where I had no control over the temperature. The radiator would just blast the heat or what have you. It's generally better to sleep in a cool environment and put an extra room. If you do have control over your thermostat, or you can even use a fan. Fan is helpful because it can cool you down, and it also provides white noise, which for many people promotes, sleep.
I was actually just going to ask that because I turn a fan on. I have a ceiling fan that I turn on sometimes, and if it's really still, I have actually a small fan that I actually blow right on my face sometimes when I sleep. So
And is that helpful?
it does.
Yeah.
It feels good.
Yeah. So the temperature can make a difference too. In general, as we kind of move into being more tired and entering sleep, our body temperature cools down a few degrees, and then it will start to go up again as we move into the latter part of our sleep cycle, and we are getting closer to the time that we're going to naturally get up, which is kind of interesting. I guess it goes along with these, the sleep cycle that we're discussing.
If you are somebody that likes to have a little bit of background noise, but the white noise sound really gets to you, like it does for me, I have this great app. It is called White Noise, but it's a free app, and it's got a ton of different sounds. So you've got the ocean, like a really heavy rain storm to a light rainstorm. There's like lightning. There's all kinds of different things. Crickets. So if you like nature sounds rather than those white noises, that might be a good thing to try. And you can set it on a timer too, so it doesn't play all night. It can just help lull you to sleep and then turns itself off.
What's the name of it?
It's called White Noise.
So I have a question. Some people can't fall asleep, and then some people can fall asleep and then wake up in the middle of the night. In terms of quality of sleep, is one better than the other, or?
They can both be a problem. When people come into our center and we're having a first appointment, and if they're at all suggesting that maybe their sleep is a problem, we usually will ask them those questions. Is it more that you can't fall asleep, or is it that you fall asleep okay and then you're intermittently waking up many times during the night, or is the problem that you sleep fine but you wake up too early? The night, I think part of the issue is that you're probably not getting, you're not going into the real dark, the real deep sleep. You're not getting REM sleep. You're not getting, the highest quality of sleep. So sometimes people will say, well, I slept for 10 hours, but I feel like I only slept for 6. It could be that they're waking up a lot during the night. And that could be due to anxiety. It could be due to the room being too hot. It could be if they were drinking any alcohol the night before. That's a very common side effect of even having a couple of glasses of something alcoholic, is that you tend to wake up a little more during your time sleeping during the night. So they can both be problems, and there are ways of addressing both.
And then for some people, there is a biological issue with sleep, and going to your medical doctor and talking to them about sleep can be helpful too. In some cases, you might have what's going on. I mean, those are more extreme cases. But if you feel like you've tried everything and you've got a set, bedtime routine, and you're doing all the things, all the tips and tricks to get good sleep, and you're still not sleeping, then it might be time to go talk to your doctor.
Right, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
May I share something? This is just my interest in Ayurvedic medicine, and I've also heard it from a doctor for about brain health. And what I learned is that the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. is when your body repairs itself. So that's why at least with Ayurveda, they recommend your sleeping time to be from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So not getting up later than 6.
That's
So
interesting.
they follow it with the law of nature.
It's interesting.
So
I was not aware of that in particular, but I do know that if you do not get the good quality of sleep, your body will not repair itself, which is part of why you experience the kinds of things, the physical as well as mental health problems. Are they saying that there's something about that 4-hour window that is especially?
Yes, I think it goes with the temperature of the body.
Well, that makes some sense to me because the temperature of the body does naturally have these rhythms where it goes down and goes up again. And I would imagine that there's some natural variation between individuals of when exactly, whether everyone at 10 o'clock is going to experience that, or maybe for another person it's going to be 11, but I think it probably points to the fact that all sleep is not created equal. Taking naps during the day might be helpful, but it might not be as good as getting, the larger block of sleep in those hours where traditionally, most of us are trying to be asleep. And so I think one thing that I hear a lot is that people will, be really tired and then they'll take a nap because they have to do work in the evening. That just kind of pushes everything, rotates everything forward, and they're not going to sleep until much later. And then I do think that affects the quality of sleep when you're not getting to bed until much later. I think one of the things that I personally experience is I often have trouble falling asleep on a Sunday night. I think it's because I sleep in later on a Saturday and a Sunday, and so I, even if it's just maybe an extra hour and a half later that I'm getting up in the morning or something, I find it harder to get to bed at my usual time on Sunday evening, which makes me more tired when I get up on Monday. So I know they mentioned in the video that at least six days out of the week you try to keep your sleep on a more regular schedule so that you don't have that type of sleep hangover, as they refer to it. I don't know, I think it's hard sometimes to do that, but I do think that it can be very helpful to keep that regular sleep routine. Anything else? Yeah.
One question I have is, what if you're doing something at night, you're going to dinner, you're watching watch TV, you're going to an event, but you have to unwind quickly, or for example, you're doing something around the house, you realize, oh, it's 9 o'clock, I need to go to bed, I need to get up there. So is there a way to transition so you can go to sleep better?
You mean when you're doing chores or things like that, and then you have to try to get to sleep quickly?
Quickly sometimes.
Yeah.
Or just separate quickly.
I mean, I think ideally they probably would say don't do those things for that hour before you're going to have to go to bed, but that sometimes isn't possible. So I think, again, some sort of a transition, even if it's 20 minutes, listen to some relaxing music or take a warm shower, something. You can't always shut down all of your obligations and devote an hour to getting ready to transition to sleep, but even a shorter transition of 20 minutes can be very helpful. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming. Good luck with everything, and
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you.
appreciate you here. Thanks.